Hello, my name is Kiriarth, and today we're just going to do a little update as to the progress of the DreadMob. Just like an end-of-year DreadMob update, since there's unlikely to be anything else added to the mob before 2020, being as we are on the 17th of December in 2019, I thought we would just take a quick look at one of the things I'm currently working on in terms of paint, two of the Dreadnoughts that have been assembled recently and require paint being chucked on them, and an expansion to the Force that is not based on the Space Marines Codex, but on the Space Wolves Codex instead. So, right now, paint-wise, in fact, no, let's start out with the minor expansion. So, I'm looking to make the DreadMob a bit more diverse in terms of the armies that are contained within it. So, to start that process off, I've got this chap. So, Venerable Space Wolves, or Space Wolves Venerable Dreadnought, sorry, which was had off eBay for not very much money at all. I think this guy was a tenner. As you can see, already assembled, already base coated, and it looks like someone made a minor attempt at starting the axe, and then promptly gave up and decided not to bother after all. So, I mean, for £10, you can't really argue with that. Seemed like a good way to start that off, to start another expansion to the DreadMob with some Space Wolves stuff. I'm going to paint them probably actual Space Wolves colours. I'm not going to stick with the colour scheme that I'm using for the rest of the DreadMob because they are slightly separate, but it's not going to be 100% Space Wolves because I don't like the blue on them. So they'll be a bit darker and they'll have a few more different highlights. More, if you remember the Eye of Terror Codex from 3rd, they'll be closer to the 13th Company look of things. So, yeah, there's just no real changes to this yet. I'm thinking I might do a few things here and there just to make it a bit more in line with the rest of the DreadMob itself in terms of not upgrades, but like customization and stuff. But yeah, I've got this for serious cheap, so that he can be the start of a Space Wolves expansion to the main load of Dreadnoughts. Now, in terms of things that require painting, I've totally changed the order in which I was going to do this, even after I'd already done the intro to the video, which, you know, pretty typical of me, let's be honest. In terms of things that need painting, we have this Leviathan with 2 Stormcannon Arrays, which I wanted to try something a little bit different with in terms of kind of ornamentation on him. So, got the Games Workshop Vines pack. So I heated it a bit and I kind of bent it to roughly match the shape of the chassis on the Dreadnought, like the armor plating on the front there, which I think has worked out okay. If I was to do it again, I would probably just take all of the leaves off one side and I would straighten out that kind of thing there. But what I'm planning to do is, for where that bit of decoration is, that side of the armor is going to be black. I have made some changes to the colour scheme of the DreadMob, which you'll see in a minute on the Chapter Master, and I'm going to go back and essentially repaint the whole lot. Take the rust down a bit, because I do like the rust, but yeah, having explored outside of the constraints I previously placed on myself for the paint jobs, take some of the rust down, add in a bit of black, a bit of like nice bright silver, a bit more gold, kind of make them look a bit more fancy overall. Yeah, I'm planning to have this armor all black, and then this leaf will actually be gold, so it'll be like a nice contrast, I think. Every single Dreadnought I want to be unique in some way, and I want it to be reflective of the Marine that was in the Dreadnought. So yeah, there's a bit of fancy, but also a little bit of cruelty going on with this guy with the kind of, that's actually the catapult off a Plague Claw. Whichever one you can also make from the Warp Lightning Cannon, that's what it's from. And there's a bit of the Dark Angel's Contemptor there, because I really like that sword. I wanted to use it on something, and this guy seemed like a good candidate, so I'm happy with the pose on this one too. I feel like he's come out pretty decent for pose-wise. I want him to be like turning as he walked, kind of getting ready to aim, so he's got one foot flat and one moving as though he's just stepping up and off. He is currently glued to the base. I'm probably going to take him off the base to paint. But yeah, not a huge number of changes to that guy. Pretty standard, just a bit of additions here and there to make him stand out. The next thing that I've got, which I finished putting together today, yesterday, today, yeah, is a chaplain. So this is a chaplain contemptor, which I'm going to actually make a stat block for. Stat block, still in D&D mindset, a data sheet for. Essentially, it'll just have the like the stats of a contemptor, but the list needs of a chaplain. Which, of course, if people don't want to play against that, that's fine. It'll just count as a relic contemptor if they don't want to play against like an actual homebrew unit. But most of the people that I play against kind of like that side of things anyway, and they have been very accepting of my dumb army to begin with. So, truth be told, Chaplain Dreadnoughts are pretty solid anyway, so it's not a vast difference between the two, if I'm honest. So yeah, what we've got is these were a pain. They were really not well cast, actually. Did a load of cleanup on the fists, but got a Dark Angel's Contemptor. Instead of putting the Dark Angel's sword or the actual like kind of hooded figure in the center, got 2 human skulls and a bird skull there. Couple more skulls on the top there. Then we've got a that's from the Cawdor gang, like a nice banner at the top, and I've put a spear on the other side to mirror the other Chaplain Dreadnought that I've got. And I wanted a bit more wing going on, so some Sanguinary Guard wings on the back there over the power plant, which kind of just give it that extra bit of extra height and presence at the back. And again, it mirrors what's on the other Chaplain. And then there's the wing covering up the Dark Angels logo there, complete with another skull, because you never have too many skulls if you're a Chaplain Dreadnought, can you? And finally, that's off the standard Venerable Dreadnought kit, and it fit perfectly in the like ornamentation there. Like the skulls fit in the little holes absolutely spot on, so that was a happy accident. And I went with that because I like the candles on the top, and I thought it mirrored the candles that are actually on the Dreadnought itself quite well there. I need to work out what I'm going to do for wicks and flames for those ones, because there aren't any on them currently, but I'm sure I'll work something out. So yeah, that's the second Chaplain Dreadnought for the army. So we're slowly making it so there's a Chaplain Dread for every detachment, which is what I'm aiming for. And finally, the thing that I'm currently working on paint-wise is my Chapter Master. So this is my Chapter Master, who is a Leviathan, as you can tell, and this is a Dark Angel's Leviathan, which I've kept some of the iconography on just because I like it, and he needs to look fancy if he's going to be a Chapter Master, doesn't he? So yeah, in terms of actual kind of equipment changes, there isn't much. One of his missiles has been replaced with a harpoon there, which functionally in the game obviously doesn't do anything. I wish it did, that would be fun. But as you can see, I've massively toned down the amount of rust on this one. So it's still dirty, and there's still a liberal use of wash over the metallics, but I've used the, what are they called? These ones. Let me just grab it, that's the easiest way. So the Vallejo liquid metals, which are really, really good. They go on like unbelievably smooth first time. They're very precise to use. They're very, very good paints. So all of the metallics I've done with that. I sprayed it bolt gun metal, so like all the kind of the back of the legs and like the kind of machinery parts are still bolt gun metal, but all the silver was done using those Vallejo liquid metal paints. He's brighter. This one is brighter than the other Dreadnoughts I've done, which was intentional, but it's made me decide to go back and repaint the Force as a whole. Not completely, but cut down on some of the rust, put some more of this bright silver on, maybe use the rust more in a highlight fashion for things like weapons and certain armor plates. And it's just made me rethink my approach to the army as a whole, which happens, and I'm not too fussed. I'm not annoyed about the fact I've suddenly decided to, change the colour scheme a bit. I feel like the black just adds a bit to it. It gives another reference point. It breaks up the metal a little bit. This is actually contrast that I've used here, so I know it doesn't look it 100%. There's 2 tiny spots that haven't filled in there. That's irritating. I'll go back and fix that later. So yeah, I've taken to using two coats of contrast instead of a single coat of Abaddon black. I don't know why. I just prefer the finish it gives. It feels a little bit smoother. It looks a little bit more. It looks a bit more matte. You know, it's not quite as glossy in the end, which I quite like. And there's a mix of the gold Vallejo liquid paints and the bronze and the silver for the metallics on this one. Which again, like, not all the trim is the same colour. So it's got the copper. Sorry, is the colour. So it's got like the copper trim there instead of gold or silver, and there's copper trim down here as well. And that side of the leg has got gold. That side's got silver. The back is black. Whereas that side again is slightly different. So it's still got that kind of no distinct colour scheme thing going on, but it just looks that bit more fancy, you know, that bit more fitting of someone in the Chapter Master position. Which again, I know you can't actually have a Chapter Master in a Leviathan outside of, I think, Cullen the Risen. Does he still count as a Chapter Master? I'm not sure. But it's more for flavour than anything else. It's a Dreadnought army. How are you going to have not a Leviathan as the Chapter Master? Come on. There's the odd change here and there. So again, a little banner from the normal Venerable Dreadnought. The harpoon is from a Caradron Overlord kit. I can't remember which one it is. I think it might be Grunstock's Profiteers. I think that might be it. Is it Profiteers or Thunderers? One of the two. Which again, that's from essentially a massive heatsink on the top, just for the sheer hell of it. And then a bit more Skaven tech there. And then for the back, again, there's just less of the rust going on. I need to go back over some of the green and sort out bits that have caught it, like bits of rust and wash and stuff. But I do the green first, just so I have a good idea as to what I'm doing with it. And the green is a bit less bright on this one too, which was a conscious and deliberate choice. I sort of changed how I did it a little bit because I wanted something a bit more, I don't know, just a bit more subdued in a way. So yeah, that is the Chapter Master. You'll note that we don't currently have the cables on the back there. That is because the cables do not quite reach, which is a slight issue, which I'm trying to work out a way to fix. So you've got these cables that go from the that port there and connect into the back of the shoulder. The bits that go there are already painted, but they just don't quite get all the way there, because you're not supposed to put that fist as far forward as I have. It's supposed to be a bit further back, but I wanted him to be pointing it, essentially pointing and commanding, or pointing and threatening. So I extended that fist out, so I'm just working out a way. I may end up just using green stuff to bridge the gap and create my own cable, is probably what I'm thinking. So it's not an issue on this side. I just haven't got around to doing it yet. I need to decide what to do about the side that's a problem first, because then I'll mirror it on the other side. So yeah, that is the Chapter Master for the DreadMob. And I've already started work on the base. As you can see, looks a bit messy now, but it won't be when it's done. I've taken to using more Vallejo stuff, this earth texture, as a base for putting the Agrellan earth over the top, because it breaks it up more nicely, it gives it more texture, and it just makes it look more interesting. I'm trying to make the bases a bit better than they were. So again, I'm going to be rebasing a lot of the DreadMob as well in the new year. Just overall bringing the force up a bit. It started out as like a daft silly project for the fun of it, and started out as a thing of, well, I'm going to paint it nice and simple, nice and easy, just bold, kind of rust, green and gunmetal, and I'll leave it at that. And it's kind of, painting this one has made me decide to go back and really put a lot more time and a lot more variation into it. I've also been sent very kindly by Fluff and Fury more of these bases, so I've got 2 of these to use, so I can rebase a couple of the Redemptors onto these. I did think about maybe using the Chapter Master on one and have him standing on one, but the height isn't quite right. So, but it's still two more awesome logo bases that I can use. And I suppose actually, yeah, the other new introduction to the DreadMob is the one I took to Purge the Pit, which again, that also has properly shifted how I want them to be painted and has contributed to deciding to paint them a little differently. So again, with this one, it's a case of, oh, don't fall off, don't fall, don't do it. Nah, you're good. It's a case of I added the black just to add something a little bit extra, and I changed the way I approached the rust a little bit, and ended up really liking the end result. So this is again contributed pretty heavily to wanting to just not fully repaint, but just do a bit more. Just do a bit more to the other Dreadnoughts. Because having done this one and being happy with the addition of the black and being happy with the change of approach with the rust, that's kind of what led to approaching the Chapter Master differently. And so it's come out different on the Chapter Master again, but in a way that I'm happy with. So yeah. As you can see, the green on the Chapter Master is a bit different, but just kind of experimenting with the recipe a little bit and switching it up just for the fun of it, just for trying something a little bit different and seeing what we can get out of it. And yeah, I quite like the idea of certain Dreadnoughts having a slightly different shade to them, making them stand out a little bit more in the tabletop. So I think probably that Chaplain will have the same green as the Chapter Master, and I might extend it to the old Chaplain 2, and maybe a couple of the others, just to create that extra bit of variation. So yeah, that is where we're at with the DreadMob. Things are unlikely to be any different by the end of the year. So those are the newest additions to said DreadMob, and the project is just continuing, endlessly continuing. It's just going on and on because it's a load of fun. It's just still interesting to me. It's still fun to me. I'm still finding it fulfilling and relaxing and enjoying to do, which is the most important thing. Like as I said before when we've done videos on these, I know things like the colour scheme especially are very like, I know it's kind of contentious. I know some of you guys really hate it and some of you guys quite like it, but it is actually evolving now. It is changing a little bit, and I do intend to go back and do a lot of work on all the other Dreadnoughts that I've got to bring them more in line with the way I've done the Chapter Master. Just evolve the scheme as it goes, I guess. Which, given that I've enjoyed painting every single one, I can't see that changing, and I'm quite looking forward to doing it, to be fair. So yeah, there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Just a little update at the end of the year for the DreadMob. And at some point next year, I'll just go through all of them. Once I've started repainting them and rebasing them and stuff, we'll go through them all again and get a nice big family shot of the idiocy that is that army. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. Click if you like, don't if you don't want to. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description down below for Element Games, where if you buy something, I get something for sending you that way. And 10% of anything you buy will go to charity at the end of the month as well. So nice way to support the channel. You were going to buy the stuff anyway. You can do that if you would like, but I leave it up to you. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Toodaloo.